Welcome back, team. I'm David Alvarez, EHS Director, and today we're going to talk about trench box safety. So like I said, we're going to talk about trench box safety. There are various methods of protection when you're working in an excavation or a trench, but today we're going to talk about trench box safety with Jesus Miranda. So Jesus, what is some of the things that you look for when you come upon a trench or you see a trench box?
One of the things that we always look for, especially on a trench box like this, we're making sure that we have an 18-inch. The box is actually standing 18-inch above ground.
So Jesus, why do we want those 18 inches?
We want to make sure that we have those 18 inches just to prevent from things rolling over into the trench. It can be from materials, spoils, tools, any debris, anything that might go in there and actually hit somebody inside the trench.
Gotcha, yeah. And another thing that's very important is we maintain those 2 feet of clearance. And you've got more room, the more the better. But if you don't maintain those 2 feet of clearance and your piles are way up here and you don't have those 18 inches, that can come on to the workers that are in here. Another thing that we're going to look for is to make sure that the trench box is not more than 2 feet above the bottom of that trench. So those 2 feet that we were talking about, why do we need those 2 feet?
So we're trying to prevent on this, in this particular case with this trench box, is trying to, what is called boiling in or maybe caving in. We're trying to make sure the box is as stable as possible, just to prevent any misplacement and just keep everybody secure while they're inside the box.
Yeah, so Jesus is correct. A lot of people don't understand that cave-ins just don't happen from the top to the bottom, but if this is too high, it can actually cave in from the bottom up, which is, as Jesus said, it's called boiling in. And what happens is that when you have piles and equipment and everything moving around, it puts so much pressure on the ground that it starts caving in, like it caves in this way. That's why these have to be all the way to the bottom or no more than 2 feet above that. So another thing that we need when there's people in here working, right now we don't have anybody in this trench, but when we do have somebody in here working, we need a way to get in and out, access and egress. Here you can see we've got a ladder, and then behind me there's also a small ramp at about a 45-degree angle. So we need these things all the time. No matter what type of protection, we need a way to get in and out of this trench. Why do we need these things, Chewy?
We actually make sure that in case of an emergency or something, they get out, that we have an easy access to be able to exit the place, or a safe way to go into the trench. We're going to make sure that we use the right ladder, in this case an extension ladder, so we make sure that we have the right equipment, the right tools when we start, before we even start.
So another thing with a trench box that we have to make sure that we're looking at is when we install the trench box that we make sure all the pins, all the cotter pins, everything is in place. If any one of these things is missing, we cannot use this box. Another thing, whether you own these or you rent these, we got to make sure we have the tabulated data on these. You just can't get a trench box and drop it in here. You got to make sure this is the box that you need to do the work at hand, because there's a ton of different types of trench boxes. You just can't get one and throw it in here. It might be too narrow, it might be too wide. So you got to make sure you got the right thing and that everything is in place. So we got to make sure that everything is in place. Chewy, what's another thing to look for when we're using this trench box?
Well, one thing on the tabulated data form, it's you're going to find a lot of information, a lot of detailed information from the specifics or detailed information about this trench box, the size of it, the material, the capacity of it. There's a lot of information that you can actually find on that tabulated data form. Okay, so it's important that we understand and we have it on hand in case we have any questions. We can refer to that form anytime.
And one of the last things I want to remind everybody is that this is a tool, and we have to use this tool the way it was meant to be used, and it's a tool that will protect us as long as we follow those basic things. There's a lot more information. This is just very basic, but remember that we always work inside the trench box. If you have to step out for some reason, you don't do it, you got to put another trench box or move the trench box over. But you never step out from the confines of this trench box. It's going to protect you as long as you're in there and it's installed correctly.
Well, thank you once again. This is some of the basics when it comes to trench box. If you have any questions, please reach out to your safety supervisor or your project supervisor. We're always here to help. Thank you very much.